the best grooming colors for you. It's so natural and handcrafted too. We wanna help you swagger, style, class, and luxury. We got products that are made for you with high quality, yeah. So get started with the black, yeah. Company, swagger, style, class, and luxury, yeah. Black, gentleman, black, yeah. Company, swagger, style, class, and luxury. in luxury, yeah.
Located at www.theblackgent.com.
Y'all know what it is, it's the usual suspect 650 jar. Buy your tickets now for a chance at winning half of the pie. Cash App, $, usual 50/50. Tickets on sale for $10 for one, $20 for 3 tickets, and $50 for 10 tickets. Put your desired amount, name or alias, as well as your email address, and your tickets will be sent. We announce the winning ticket numbers every other Friday on Queen's Boxing Talk Bullshit on the Beltway, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Remaining proceeds will go directly to the LEDC meet and greet in Las Vegas. Shout out to the LEDC and remember,
It's a usual suspect tag.
y'all know what it is. It's the Find the Boxer game. Purchase a box for a chance at winning $500. 154 boxes has a missing boxer inside. Purchase your box or boxes by Cash App, $, usual 50/50. Include your box number, name, and email address. Your box number will be confirmed and sent directly to your email. Each box is $20, with a 1 in 54 chance of winning. Remaining proceeds will go directly to the LEDC meet and greet in Las Vegas. Shout out to the LEDC and remember,
It's a usual suspect tag. Yo. What's good? What's good? It's Stormy B Man, and I am back. Welcoming you to the Tuesday Tussle for this Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. We're calling this episode Boxing, Fair and Foul Play. Coming up out of another hot weekend of boxing where we had a couple of cards on 2 different sides of the world. 3 if you want to count what took place in Puerto Rico. But just to talk about the sport and us now having as much boxing on our plate as we had been hoping for, like just a couple of years ago. We were talking about the fact that they were not only putting matches on opposite one another, but just kind of like at the same time where you couldn't get the variety of the boxing, and the cards were overlapping shows and broadcasts, where now is seemingly stretching out not only over the weekend days. We've got Sunday mixture in, we have Wednesday with Pro Box TV doing what they do. When fights are coming out of Japan, it's usually on a Monday. And then we even have had some Thursday broadcasts, and of course Friday broadcasts, as we have coming up this Friday, a tremendous undisputed welterweight match between Natasha Jonas and Lauren Price. So boxing is really hitting a groove right now. And remember, we had people out here talking about the sport is dying and all of that, which I've always rebuked that thought. When you're short-sighted and you limit yourself, then it can appear most definitely to be a sport that is phasing out or dying. But when you embrace the totality of the sport and understand that it is an international sport, boy, you can really enjoy the best of what the sport has to offer. And that leads us into tonight's subject, because coming out of this weekend, we had a couple of broadcasts that ended up being officiated differently, but from two different ends of the spectrum: appropriate and validated officiating, and improper, questionable officiating. And again, as I've said so many times, this show is spawned from what transpired this past weekend. The talking points. Poor officiating has been a part of boxing since the inception of the sport. But lately, especially from the western part of the world, but not exclusive or limited to the western part of the world, the sport is being guided or manipulated in a certain direction due to poor officiating and judging. We've seen fighters on the receiving end of decisions that are improper, undeserving. We've seen officials, meaning the referees, get involved to a degree of where you're questioning what their real motives are. And then at other times have a sense of omission, not paying attention to the action properly, and penalizing or overseeing that certain things don't happen, where one can gain a greater advantage over another. We're seeing that a lot. This past weekend, no different. So it's nice to be able to come out and talk about this, especially when it's fresh. Sometimes you see people give everything that they have for the sport, only to have their efforts go unawarded due to these agendas that are being pressed forward. So we're here to talk about that a little bit tonight. First, want to take time out to go to the chat, see who we got in the building. Got a few familiars out there, and also some we've got some pervs out there, and that's understandable. You know, that it's kind of like a thing that you can't always keep everybody out, you know, but you know how to toss them out, right? Yeah. So Kamarin Fields is out there saying, salute Stormy, peace and blessings to you. Same to you. Let's like before we type. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for that. Universal Truth is in the building saying salute Sensei in chat. What's good with you? Chill Town Majors is out there saying Stormy salute. Chat, good evening. Yes, sir. Kamarin is saluting the chat as well. Steph Brown is back with us saying be well, Stormy B-Man. Salute our chat family who's in this evening. Hit the like button, fam. God be with you. Same to you, brother. And Boxing and Barbecue has popped in this evening saying, evening, Stormy B-Man. What's good with you, Boxing and Barbecue? What's happening? Yeah. So, we had a chance this weekend to have one of the rare Stormy B-Man fight calls. And I'm glad that I made that decision, because we saw some action that, had I not made the fight call, I might have missed what was on display. And though I've already did a post-fight on it, there was a video earlier today. Some of you didn't watch it because the view on that video is very low. But again, these talking points, if you're not watching boxing, you should shut TF up. You know why? Because you're not allowing yourself to be totally, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe submerged into it, where you can gain knowledge and understanding from various experiences. Nothing like Lewis Crocker when he took on Paddy Donovan from Belfast, Ireland. 2 Irish men in an all-Irish welterweight battle for an IBF title eliminator, meaning the winner would have an opportunity to go after Jaron Boots Ennis's IBF title. These 2 men were both entering this bout undefeated, and they had the benefit of taking on one another to see who would have the right for that title shot. Trying to pull something up here. Now, in the case of Crocker, he entered this fight with a record of 20-0 with 11 KOs. Nicknamed the Croc, he's from the UK, out of Belfast. He's 28 years of age, 5'9", orthodox fighter. And he looked to take on Paddy Donovan, who was entering the bout coming off of a successful campaign, kind of hotly promoted by Matchroom and the Hearn family. Now, he is a straight Irishman from Ireland, Limerick, Ireland, 26 years of age, a southpaw, 5'9", and his nickname, The Real Deal. Now, I had stated going into that fight, if you're going to call yourself the real deal, that's a lofty consideration to live up to when you've had fighters like Evander, the real deal Holyfield, or Amanda, the real deal Serrano. You see, when you have that moniker, you have to live up to it. Unfortunately, Paddy Donovan was not able to deliver in that department. He went into the fight with his record of 14-0 with 11 KOs. But by the time the night ended, he was 14-1 with a disgraced DQ now on his record. Again, as I called this fight, the action was tight. Crocker came out and pressed the action against Donovan, looking to make the fight a close, in-fought fight because Donovan had the better of the boxing skills overall. The southpaw position could cause problems for Crocker, so being closer to him and fighting from mid-range to close range was to an advantage for Crocker. Now, early on, Donovan was boxing, picking his shots, trying to step around, and he was doing fairly well, even though the pressure was being applied by Crocker. The fight was being competitive on both parts. But by the third round, you could see Donovan didn't want to do the work consistently, and he began to foul. Now, the fouls that he was creating, or committing, I should say, during the bout were things like hitting with the elbow, hitting with the shoulder, low blows, headbutts, but not all at once. It was a little sprinkle of things as the action heated up during the bout. Because Crocker was pressing the action, you could give him points for that and punching in close, though Donovan was the busier of the two. And then it happened. The sixth round saw Donovan deducted 1 point for headbutts. Now, if you guys have watched my content, I've talked about some of the fighters coming out of Ireland that learning to use the head as a third punch seemingly is part of the repertoire there. And when you're fighting a fighter from that environment, you should be prepared. But it still doesn't stop the fact that when they're committing these infractions, that it's not a distraction. Getting head-butted can cause a concussion. The pain that from the clashing of one skull to another, a lot of people don't know. It's like, especially if you're not the one initiating the contact, because the person initiating the contact has a moment to brace for the impact, but the person who's on the incident aspect of a butt, it could be quite damaging and distracting. It can knock you off your game plan. It could sometimes daze you and have you unaware of your surroundings in the moment. So fighters who are taught to use their head as a weapon, spearing, slashing, coming in as you throw a shot, you come in and dive in with the head at the same time, dipping down and coming up into the opponent. All of that in a clinch, pushing your head up under the opponent's chin and neck and whacking them with the head, especially if the ref is on the opposite side where they won't necessarily see the contact. They'll just see the response to the contact. These things happen. And boy, did Donovan initiated it during this particular fight. It went downhill from there. And there is also a little trick that fighters do when someone's fighting in the high guard. The opposing fighter will take one glove and pull their guard down to whack them with a shot. That's actually an illegal tactic, but it happens. Donovan had even resorted to that. But on this particular night, over in Belfast, the referee, Marcus McDonald, a referee that I've seen in a lot of the matchroom card matches, usually when fights are happening over in Ireland or over in the UK, he's one of the referees that'll be a part of it. Matchroom promotions usually have that guy in the lineup. And he has had some questionable efforts in the past. But on this particular night, this referee was on his game. He had begun to warn Donovan about his tactics, calling time, telling him, hey, watch your head, stop that. But there was one point after the sixth round where Donovan threw an elbow, an illegal elbow. The ref was standing behind, I believe, Crocker at the moment. So as he had thrown some shots and got close, he took his right elbow, because he's a southpaw, and whacked Crocker across the jaw on the left side of his face, immediately opening a cut under his left eye and cheekbone. And of course, Crocker's response was, "Oh man, wow." And the ref was like, "Hey," he warned him, he issued a hard warning. None of this. He told him none of this. No. It didn't stop Donovan. So they get to the 8th round. And Donovan, who's now enjoying, the better portion of action in the fight, managed to get Crocker down to the canvas. After Crocker got up inside of the count, you could see he was really favoring the eye where the cut was. And when they resumed the action, Donovan went after him again, whacked him with his head a couple of more times, and the ref called time and issued a second point deduction for the fouls on Donovan's behalf. So now Donovan has lost 2 points on fouls. And typically a referee will tell you, the next time, you're out of here or whatever, right? So they resume the action in the 8th, and gearing toward the end of the round, Donovan has this huge advantage because Crocker's now backing up in the defensive posture. He's near the ropes and everything, and the bell ends to end the round. The bell rings to end the round. And a few seconds after the bell, Donovan winds up and throws this right hook that catches Crocker. He twists and go down again. Donovan raises his hands up like, "Yeah, I got him." So the ref called time. Donovan was on his way back to his corner, celebrating. The referee looked at Crocker's corner. His cornerman was standing on the ring apron. He told them no, he called time. He went to check on Crocker, who was getting up, but he was in no shape really to continue. He was caught very vulnerable with that punch after the bell. The referee waved his arms like this. And it was in that moment that everybody thought the fight was being waved off because Crocker was knocked out. But no, lo and behold, the referee goes over and waves off Donovan and says he's disqualified. Now, anyone who was watching the action throughout the fight know that Donovan got away with far too much of the tactics in a fight that he was possibly winning on the scorecards, but he seemingly lost all discipline and couldn't help himself with the fouls. Marcus McDonald DQ'd him because he would not stop fouling people. Elbows, headbutts, low blows, holding and twisting and doing different things that he didn't have to do these things being a fighter who was out ahead. It was a horrible night for the Donovan camp, trained by Andy Lee, who has ties to the Kronk gym and also to the Fury camp. In the aftermath, they would tell anybody who would listen that the referee took the fight away from them and that he robbed him of his future and all of this. No, Patty Donovan, you robbed yourself of a great opportunity on the horizon because you just couldn't remain a disciplined fighter inside the rules of the sport. If it were a street fight, he'd been the unanimous winner. But because it's the Marcus of Queensberry rules, he couldn't make it through the end. And about where you have to fight within the rules and the guidelines. Let me take a moment here. The brother EJ has informed me that there is a Cash App we got here. Let's see. Salute to EJ out there with the Cash App donation. We appreciate you, brother. He says, most content creators haven't mentioned this card. Hey, man, listen. This lets you know, EJ, it's a reason that I do what I do. And because I say all the time, I like to lead by example. You see, I'm watching this fight live, calling it live on my channel. It's still up from Saturday. It's on the channel. And I'm watching these things unfold, and I'm giving it to the listening audience of the play-by-play, blow-by-blow, what's happening. If other people aren't dialed into this, that's fine. But they miss a genuine education. And I've spoken about myself being educated by witnessing what I was able to encounter checking this bout out, because it actually set a tone. Because later in the day, when we had the Davis versus Roach, I'll get to in a moment, the poor officiating of that stood out like a sore thumb. And salute to EJ again for the Cash App donation. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much. Yeah, they're not talking about it because they're not the boxing aficionados that they claim to be. They're not. Let's see, we got a couple people that came into the building while I was talking. Shower's out there. What's going on with you, Shower? Good to see you have come into the building. And TD Sports Talk is in the building. How you doing, huh? Yeah, that's my man there, Thomas. Listen, this bout was a good fight. And these two men, like I said, the winner was fighting for the right to challenge Jaron Boots Ennis later in the year. Because we know that Ennis has his bout coming up with Emantas Stanionis. And I think that's in May. So this person could have been, if Ennis is successful in May, this person could be looking at Ennis in the fall. You see? And guess what? You know these people would tune in to watch Ennis, right? But when he faces either Crocker or Donovan, they say, oh, he's fighting a bum. Yeah, it's easy to say that when you haven't watched boxing. You don't know who these men are. These are two men who were undefeated, fighting for that right. Undefeated fighters are hard to defeat because no one wants to give up that O. And when you have someone being competitive, sometimes they can rise to the occasion. Now, what we saw out of Crocker in this fight was his character and resolve to continue on through all of the fouling and everything. It speaks to a great notion on his behalf. Donovan, not so much, because you could be talented, you could be popular, you could have the best of backing. But if you don't have the discipline, man, you're out of there. And even if these two fight a rematch, it doesn't erase what happened the first go around. And that's the kind of thing that I like to keep you abreast of. When you're not looking at boxing where you can get this type of information and file it in a database where you can say, man, I can remember when such and such happened and this and that and the third, and you have a reference point where you can go back and begin to realize that when you don't see proper officiating like what Mr. Marcus McDonald put on, then you can question, why is this ref not doing something? What you see what I'm saying? It's like, instead of just saying like, wow, they're really letting them fight. No. I was in an uproar a couple of years ago when Katie Taylor fought Chantel Cameron in their rematch. And Chantel had won the first fight. It was in Ireland, in Katie's backyard. Katie was the undisputed lightweight champion, and she was going for Chantel's undisputed super lightweight title. And Chantel beat her in a decision, but not before the end of the bout, where Katie, when things were getting rough for her, started fouling, mainly with headbutts. So they fight the rematch a few months later, again in Katie's hometown, just like when Devin Haney had to take on George Kambosos twice in his hometown and country. They made Chantel, who was the champion, because they were fighting for Chantel's belts, not Katie's. They made Chantel fight her twice in Ireland. And you know, if Chantel got that decision the first time, that they were going to do everything within their power to see that Katie gets the favor the second go round. But lo and behold, Chantel is such a great fighter. She drops Katie in the first round of the rematch with a blow to the chest, and Katie stumbled back and fell down. The ref never acknowledged the knockdown. He didn't say it was a slip. He just allowed Katie to get up. He wiped her gloves and told them to continue fighting. It was a knockdown. The ring counter outside the ring, he didn't count or anything. Home cooking. As that bout went on, Katie Taylor was whacking and ramming and spearing her head into Chantel Cameron's face, that by the time the fight ended, Chantel's face was full of lumps and bruises. Because Katie, though she's a strong fighter, she doesn't punch like that. So those blows and bruises around about her face, they weren't from Katie's punches, y'all. They were from her headbutts and clashes. And sure enough, they gave Katie the decision because she made it to the distance. And Chantel basically fought that fight trying to save her own face the entire night. There were no warnings to Katie. There was nothing to suggest that, hey, if this doesn't stop, a point can be deducted. If you don't stop, then you could another point or even a DQ. No, they never even treated it as if Katie were doing dirty things. I've watched other fighters from over there. Josh Warrington, a fighter who had very few knockouts on his record, but when his battles got tough, like his fights with Alberto Lopez, the head. That man, Josh Warrington, I think he was the best at it. The best. But Katie runs a close second behind Warrington. Totally absurd to see this, and when referees don't do their job. So, Donovan lost by DQ. Hearn is going to now push for a rematch between the two. But I fear for Lewis Crocker because he's going to have a lot to contend with going into a rematch. Especially if they're talking about holding it over there. And I know Hearn is going to try to tell them, this is the place where it's going to be the most money. No, this is the place where it's going to be the most of backing against you. I mean, I don't like it, man. I don't like it at all. So that brings us around to the other talking point about the other end of the spectrum, where Gervonta Tank Davis defended his WBA lightweight title against junior lightweight WBA titleist Lamont Roach. And this fight, I thought that it was going to be a definite challenge for Gervonta, because I've watched Lamont Roach and I figured this was just going to be a different fight for Tank Davis as opposed to his wins over the likes of Frank Martin or Ryan Garcia, Hector Luis Garcia, Rolly Romero, and Isaac Cruz. You see, those guys, they had something going in against Tank that was always a deficit, whether it had to do with ability, confidence, experience, skill, or just the whole point of being enamored with the aura of Gervonta Tank Davis. But something told me that Lamont Roach was not going to enter this fight with that. He's from the same area, as Tank Davis. They grew up knowing one another. They've been in the gyms and around each other. They fought in the amateurs. They were very familiar with one another. And seeing that Roach had the experience of challenging for a world title 6 years ago against Jamel Herring, he lost that decision to Herring. But it was a fight that was definitely winnable for him. And he kind of checked out mentally in the fight. And I don't mean like he quit or anything, but like he didn't realize that in order to win the title, you have to take it from the champion. And there were moments in the fight that he had where he actually hurt Herring, but he didn't turn it up, didn't go into that next gear or so. So he learned from the experience of that loss against Herring, and he had come back with solid wins and knockouts of opponents leading up to the opportunity against Tank. And when a fighter has gone through that transition, of you lose a fight, you lose a decision, but you know that you have to go back to the lab and correct whatever was wrong so that you could have success in the future. He has made that transition. You couple that with the likes of Gervonta mentioning that one of his biggest fears is losing because he's worried that people are going to talk about him and make memes about him and things of that nature. And when I heard that come out of his mouth, I said, oh, this fight is right there for the grabbing for Lamont Roach. You see? Psychological. So Tank had already put it out in the universe that the fear of losing and why are the type of things that he would never have control over. So it's one of the reasons that you shouldn't worry about those kind of things. And if his people who train him and keep him ready and prepped for fights haven't had conversations with him about that, shame on them. Because Tank is now 30 years old. He's not a little boy anymore. He's 30 years old. Roach is 29. Two men with differing experiences, but one is primed to take that next step to prove himself. The other is trying to stay secure and in a safe place and be shielded. And wouldn't you know that referee Steve Willis assisted mightily in being a secure person for Tank Davis during this particular match. How unfortunate that Willis was not able to be a professional on this night. And many people have spoken about liking him as a referee. I thought he had done some good work as a referee until I saw him last month on the Clarissa Shields card where he refereed those heavyweights who were DQ'd, falling out of the ring after, grappling and wrestling with one another. They looked like two sumos in there. And he horribly officiated that fight, and only to follow up that rendering of services to this. And everybody knows what I'm talking about, the round when Tank took a knee and got up and went to his corner, stuck his head through the ropes for them only to wipe his head with a towel or something. I'm not going to get into why he did it and all of that. Only thing I'm talking about is the officiating. It was horrible. Steve Willis is telling Tank, hey man, you can't do that, instead of counting, because he took a voluntary knee. He didn't threaten to DQ Tank for going over there and dealing with cornermen while the action was live. He didn't warn Tank for the low blows, but he took a moment to warn Roach about some kind of infraction. He didn't say anything when Tank hit Roach with his shoulder in a blatant move to distract Roach because Roach was dealing with him. And there we talk about the near bite incident, where again, recalling a man whom he seems to be emulating in his ring life, Gervonta, I'm talking, Mike Tyson, when he bit Evander Holyfield on the ear in their second fight. You see all of this undisciplined nature from fighters. If they're not penalized properly, they will continue these actions. Because when you also have these infractions, fines are supposed to come from the commission as a deterrent. That's just like when people are popping dirty for PEDs and you give them a little slap on the wrist, it's nothing. They'll come right back and do it again. How many times has Dillian White popped dirty? Jarrell Miller. Canelo. fighters out of the Eddie Reynoso gym. You see, you have to be able to hold people accountable, man. And if you don't do that, the sport runs wild. And the good fighters get lost in the shuffle because they don't get the decisions, they don't get the considerations, they don't get protection. We're seeing this too much. And it's not just in the Western fighters, because as I told you earlier, I gave the example of Katie Taylor, Josh Warrington, and so many more. Anthony Kakachi won a title with a foul on Joe Cordina last year. Hitting Cordina on the break and after a bell and stuff like that, and the fight being allowed to continue without Cordina giving proper time to clear his head or whatever. I think the maximum time they can give you on a timeout is 5 minutes. He wasn't even offered that. And he lost his title to Anthony Kakachi. These things are happening in the sport. And see, just like I'm talking to you about it now, you don't hear other content creators talking about this. No way. They're talking about the controversial majority draw that Tank got in this fight against Roach, when many people saw Roach winning the fight. But the way I'm putting it to you, I'm letting you know that there are agendas being served. There are opportunities that are not being met for guys who put all of their all into a fight and are robbed. Imagine you went to work, whether you get paid once a week or every 2 weeks or bi-monthly or whatever, and when it's time for the pay period to come in and it's time for that check to hit your bank account, and there's no delivery, you're looking like, where's my money? Well, these fighters, when they go out and they train hard and they sacrifice their lives, they sacrifice their relationships with their family and children, and they're away for months at a time with these camps, and they're really abusing their bodies with all of this physical activity that it requires to get in shape as a professional fighter, only to get to the finish line and they don't reward you for your efforts. That has to stop. And guess what? There are channels greater than mine. If they said what I'm saying, if they talked about it like I talk about it, if they brought the focus in, you don't have to do it every single show, but it's like you have to have the discussion. You have to turn the heat up. They don't. Especially if it's their guy who's benefiting. And in this case, a lot of them were vying for Tank Davis. There were very few people picking Lamont Roach to have a chance against Gervonta. I was one of the few that said he had a chance. And that doesn't make me Nostradamus or anything like that. It's just that I made an assessment based on the man's career trajectory and how Tank hasn't had a real challenge in quite some time. And he's been shielded and protected. Remember when they were talking about that they were going to make him fight Lomachenko and everything, and he was like, well, I'll throw your belt away or whatever. Throw the belt away, fool. We'll give it to somebody else who's deserving and they'll fight. You don't run nothing here. You can't make us. You know what they could do? They could kick you out the sanctioning bodies. It's crazy. But see, I'll talk about these things because it's what I do. And I love the sport. I love the participants of the sport. I want to see the best of what they have to offer. I don't want to be jaded and in the dark about it. I want to be like, oh, when's the next bout? Who are these guys? I'm excited that way. So Wills dropped the ball in the Tank versus Roach fight. And if he's going to officiate bouts like that because it's a high-profile fighter, a big name like Tank, or someone who might have a name that's bigger than Tank's, I don't want to see him in there if he's going to get all starstruck and can't do his job. I guarantee you, had he gotten Roach in any kind of trouble, shook him, wobbled him, or anything like that, Wills would have jumped in and stopped the damn fight. And ironically, Roach shook and rocked Tank 3 or 4 times in the fight. Yeah, which may have been why he couldn't remember what round it was late in the fight, huh? Maybe he had some marbles scattered up there from one of those hard counter shots that Roach landed on him. Yeah. It happens. Some people don't realize, it doesn't take a lot, but it does require you to have know-how, capability, huh? Yeah, that's a requisite. With that being said, let's hear from my man, the Focus Ball. Yeah.
Get ready to take your striking game to the next level with the Focus Ball. Dramatically improved footwork, timing, head movement, hand-eye coordination, reflex, and overall fight IQ. It's lightweight and extremely portable, so you can train every time, everywhere. When you don't have a coach to do mimic work, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a heavy bag to hit, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a sparring partner, get yourself a Focus Ball. And when you just want to have fun punching and kicking, get a Focus Ball. When you train with the Focus Ball, you train your eyes and your brain to read punches so that you can hit and not get hit, making this very simple device a must-have for all combat sports athletes and enthusiasts alike. So if you want to take your striking game to the next level, don't wait. Get the focus ball now.
Yeah. And listen, don't forget to sign up for my Patreon, because there's more and more material that's dropping over there. We've hit the ground running, and we're doing some great things with the uncensored content. I want to make it known that there has been a little bit of a lightening of the tightness on my subs around here. I picked up a few subs over the past week after 6 months of these people not allowing my subs. Yeah, not allowing, because you can't tell me I didn't have more than 10 subs over the past 6 months, man. No. That's total, utter interference. But the needle is finally moving in the proper direction. And I have some of you to thank for sharing content, for showing up on time, for hitting that like button, tweaking the algorithms. And I only simply ask that you continue to do the same, because that's what makes a world of difference. When you're just kind of sitting pat and don't do much of anything, then they can victimize us all. You for not participating and taking action, and me because they may be acting against what I stand for. And you know what I stand for if you are a regular to this channel, huh? No nonsense and no foolishness, huh? You saw me this evening. I was wearing my F+ get to the back of the class tee. Yeah, because that's what Stormy B Man does. He leads by example. You dig? So we've come to the end of another Tuesday Tussle. I wish we had a little more time, but we don't need too much time because we have to get in and out with that information because it don't take all day, huh? And for those of you who are on the remedial aspect of the experience, you could go back and catch the replay, huh? Yeah, but just know that the grades have already been given out. Even if you don't know what it is, I know what it is because I know who was out there and I know what you were saying, huh? Sometimes even when it didn't have a damn thing to do with Stormy B Man's subject for the evening, huh? So you know what that means, huh? And you know what that grade is. So I just tell you, do what you gotta do, huh? So shout out to the mighty LDBC, and we will catch you guys on the next one.
This is not my